is too low. I can hardly hear Ben. Ben, say something again.
Something again.
Hey, much better. Okay, I've restarted and I'm launching. This is great podcast, Ben. Great,
I
great
mean,
streaming fodder.
it's just a typical GudeLaurance
Hey,
podcast.
it's Ben Lawrence,
Hey,
my
it's Paul Goody.
pal.
How's it
Hey, Ben,
happening?
how's it happening?
I have
Ben,
no
I'm just
idea how it's
based
happening,
on
but
based on
it's
that, I'm
happening.
gonna read just a really quick thing that I sent my wife. This is a text to my wife. Here we go. I say to her, she says to me, ask Betty if she would like pizza. I would like pizza. And I said to her, she want a pizza, okay. And what I was trying to communicate was that Betty told me that she would not mind having pizza. So she wasn't like super jazzed about it, but she was also all right. So in that case, she wanted pizza, okay is okay. When I saw how badly that sentence came out, I wrote, maybe the basket come off. And then she wrote to me, okay, for now is money time. Uh, so do you know the story about maybe the basket come off, Ben?
I
Have we talked about
do
this?
I do not believe so. No.
All right. So we read about a hot air balloon accident that occurred, and there was speculation between us about what the thing that caused the hot air balloon disaster was, and my response to that question was maybe the basket come off. Like maybe the basket had untethered itself from the
Yeah.
balloon.
Of course. Yeah.
But did I get all that information? And you've talked to me a little bit about this before. That sometimes having a conversation with me is hard because I start into the conversation and I've had half of the conversation in my head, and I do not communicate that part of the information to you. So I will say something like, well, she was going to do that anyway. And that's the first sentence that you hear from me
Yeah.
about this new conversation that we're having.
Sometimes that even happens in the middle of conversations.
Yes. Oh, like we've started having a conversation and I've jumped ahead like 3 steps or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's too bad. But hey, we're all here now and everything's good. Do you know what today is, Ben? I think you do.
Today is
Uh,
Friday, September 1st. It's the Friday before a 3-day holiday weekend. Kind of digging
and
here. I have no idea what you're referring to.
it is a time when you and I are going to reconnect about something that we connected on at the very beginning of our friendship. When we first met each other, we were driving around in your
Today,
in
in my
your
red pickup truck,
in your
today is the
red pickup
release
truck.
of Ghost
Yep,
of Room.
Ghost of Room 3, I believe
Yeah.
is and I have not had a Mike Dowdy album for a long time. I've listened to some of his things, but I haven't bought. What's the one that that he put out that had God, I'm trying to think of one of the songs off of it. I
Vegetable?
haven't. Yeah, Vegetable. Which one was that?
That's on Golden Delicious, I believe.
Golden Delicious. Yes. So I got Golden Delicious, which to me, just so you know, we've talked about this before, time compression as you get older. To me, Golden Delicious came out maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, no,
How
it's
long
been
has
like,
it actually been?
oh God, it's been like 15.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna look it
so
up.
yeah. So I got Ghost of Room 3 and I love it. Now my guess is that you, Ben Lawrence, have already heard some of these songs because you are, of course, a Patreon subscriber to Mike Dowdy.
I am. I haven't listened to the album yet. It just got released
Oh,
today.
yeah.
I'll pick it up when I go home. But
So this is the exciting thing. I was like, I'm gonna get this album I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to talk to Ben about it because obviously Ben has become the larger fan, and therefore will already know about it. But yeah, okay. So let me tell you, Ben, um, it it has a lot of the stuff that I like about Mike
Yeah.
Doughty. Lots of samples, lots of cool. He's doing his hip hop lyricy kind of things
Yeah.
that he does,
He
and
says, I mean, I'm on his mailing list, and he says it's
yeah,
of his albums. This is one of his favorites. He thinks it's really good. Of course, you gotta say that though when you want people to
yeah, yeah,
buy
yeah.
your song. I
I
just
I
want to
would
point out, though. I
agree.
just want to
Yeah,
point out that I guessed that Golden Delicious was released 15 years ago. It was released in 2008, which was 15 years ago.
Ben, amazing.
Boom goes the
Right
dynamite.
before this call, I got a phone call from a bookstore saying that they were looking for books to showcase on consignment, and they asked about my book. Now, here's the fun thing about this:
Yeah.
no one calls me about my books except for this one group that is not necessarily a scam, but is kind of a, hey, we need you to pay us so that we can promote your book kind of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
this is why it's not a scam. I'm putting air quotes and not a scam, but also, liable. They will promote your book if you pay them, right? So it's not really a scam, it's a service. It is just a service that they don't tell you that they're going to need you to pay them for it until you get further along in the
Right.
process. And my guess is that they are now also working with these bookstores to do the thing because the pitch is exactly the same. And because I think we've talked about this, Jennifer talked about doing an audiobook version. Jennifer and I talked about it, me actually paying her to do an audiobook version. As she was reading through it, she's like, Paul, I don't know if you want to do this. Right. And we talked about it. It's at the time that I wrote it, the idea of this is before we went through the whole can I play a black character in D&D thing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just because I brought it up to explain my stance on it, the the people who would be depicted by a white player playing a black character. And again, we want to say we're not talking about can I play a drow, can I play an African American coded character in a game? The answer is, well, you can do whatever you want, but if you care about other people and how they feel about things, there are many black people who would not like you to do that.
Yeah.
Can you find someone who will say, I have no problem with it? Probably so, right? But there are people who have said, I do not like this. So that conversation had not happened yet when I wrote Mara and the Magicians, where the main character that you're following, Mara, is black. And had I had that conversation before I wrote it, I don't think I would have written the story that I wrote. But it happened. The book is out there. I like the book. I like it, but I don't know if I would have chosen a different story to tell because there are plenty of people who have had an authentic experience who are, like, I mean, my book is about someone who grew up in a fantasy world. So, at the time that I wrote it, I was like, well, this is fine. This is a totally different cultural experience than anybody else. And
Yeah.
the meta contextual thing of, okay, that's great. That we understand that you're doing that. Is this a story that needs to be told by you at this time? Answer was no. Wrote it already, so it's not a big thing, but I don't want to do anything else with it.
Like, as a white person, I'm not going to tell anybody what their cultural experience is, of course.
Right.
But I feel that there is a small difference between being a white author and writing a person of color in your story versus being a white author and writing the lived experience of a person of color, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you're
I
not
get. I mean,
like
that's
like Mara is. You're not writing the experience of Mara as a black person in this world. You know, you're writing
right.
the experience of Mara being in this world.
Right. And the thing about it, I guess, and again, I feel as though the meta contextual things that go along with the book, right? Like where I, Paul Goody, am as a white American dude writing this book. Again, I made the choice, I wrote it. Had I to make the choice over again, I would not have written it. But I did. And so I'm not like trying to remove all copies that exist in the world or anything, but I'm also not going to heavily promote it. So the reason I bring all this
Yeah.
up is that I've what I've started doing is being completely honest with them when they call and say, "Hey, we would like to help promote this book," and say, "I'm not interested in promoting this book."
Oh, they're talking about that book and not Elephant and Giraffe.
Right. Yes, they're talking about Mara and the Magicians specifically. And
How
I
do
and
they
I
know about it?
Amazon,
It's on
you
Amazon?
know, it's on Amazon, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's part of CreateSpace. And I think what they
It's
do is
called
that I
Kindle
think,
Direct Publishing these days.
yeah, exactly. So you can see how much attention I've been paying to this. So what I say to them is, look, I had some plans to do an audiobook of it. When the audiobook reader read it, I don't mention that the audiobook reader was my wife, I don't think, or when the audiobook producer
Yeah.
read it, they had some concerns about how it would play today, and you know decided to pass on it. And I took that lesson to heart and decided that I'm not really doing any additional promotion for the book at this time. So thank you for your interest. And here's the thing that's exciting. Make the world work for you, Ben, the world you're living in. When I made that statement, uh, stop the conversation. They were no longer interested in promoting the book. So that works out. They did not ask me to pay them $500 like they did the last time.
I run into that every once in a while, but with podcasts because I get like I've at one point I produced like 3 different podcasts, like self-produced 3 different podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
and I would constantly get emails from people saying hire us to help promote your podcast, guaranteed thousands of listeners per week, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want thousands of listeners per week. I
I specifically,
like
yeah,
doing my thing in a bubble.
exactly. And it's weird, right? When you don't want to get, it's similar to back when I was selling Love in a Time of Zombies, right? A friend of ours who, you'll probably guess who it is, and if you don't guess, I'll tell you after the podcast is
Should
over.
I guess
But
on? Should I guess
no, not
on the
not
stream?
not guess on the stream, but
Okay.
what I mean is when I say this, you'll know. Was
Okay.
like, this is a poor business decision on your part to sell your book for this little money. You should sell it for more money because then people will value it more and will pay for it. And I was like, but I don't think my book is worth any more than what I'm charging for it.
Yeah.
I like this book. I like Love in a Time of Zombies, but I do not want anyone to pay any more than what I've asked for it because I would not pay more than what I've asked for it. And they said, well, just as an experiment, price it higher. So I did. Nobody bought it any more than they already did. And so I put it back at the regular price. And it's the same thing with when we were doing improv in St. Louis. Our ticket prices were lower than any other theater's ticket prices. And we were like, yeah, but
Yeah.
this is what we're doing. We want a big audience to come and see us.
It's
And
also like that's an accessibility thing too. There's a theater in town. They don't have set ticket prices. It's all pay what you can. Now they have pay what you can tiers, so the lowest you can pay is $5. And it goes up by like $5-10 increments.
yeah,
But it's not like I think we've gotten to the point now, at least in Seattle. I don't know anywhere else, where the value of the art is not connected to the ticket price. Because
That's nice.
you can go see a really great show at a small fringe theater for $5,
Yep.
or you can pay, I don't even know how much the opera costs these days.
You could buy a subscription to the largest theater in Seattle and have just a guy running up and down on a big pile of dirt.
Anyway, at least the community that I hang out with does not consider the value of the art to be connected to how much it costs to see it. Of course, people in my community also get comp tickets all the time, which frustrates Steven to no end, being somebody who runs a theater. But
wait, I will say this: I don't think that Steven is necessarily against comp tickets.
No.
Right?
He's not against comp tickets, but he's just frustrated by the amount of people who request them.
Yes, that there's a difference. For sure.
However, I remember I was having a conversation with Rick Miller once, and this isn't ticket price, but it was connected to physical media. There was a Spin the Bottle, and a musician came and he was handing out his CDs. He wasn't charging for them, and
Right.
people would take them. And I was talking to Rick later on because Rick charges for his music, and I was like, "What do you think of this guy just giving out his CD to anybody?" And Rick's point was that if people didn't pay money for that CD, then they didn't. That's the amount of value they attributed to that piece of media.
This was not. It was not Rick who said that I should charge more for my books, but it was the same exact argument that if you don't charge people a lot, they don't value it enough. Now, here's something.
Rick actually had a point in terms of that particular artist. I got one of his CDs, and I found it again 2-3 years later. I hadn't even taken the cellophane off.
So here's what I'd say, and I, not to sell myself short, right? But Rick Miller saying that is Rick Miller saying that, meaning between you, me, and Rick Miller, when it comes to the amount of time, effort, and skill that we've acquired in our craft, I think Rick is much better at music than us, for instance, right? So if you and I were going to charge for music, we are two guys who like playing music. Rick is an artist who has honed his craft, right? Yeah. And I think his argument makes sense for what he is performing.
Yeah, no, I'm not debating that.
So if he were to charge less for what he does, people would undervalue what he did. You and I charging more money for the music that we do isn't going to make the music any better. So that,
in fact, it might piss people off.
Right, exactly. I say this with love, but my whole point is this, and I think that I really think Rick would get on board with this. I don't know if he would for sure, but I feel as though I would like to live in a world where neither Rick or us have to survive on the sales of our art.
Yeah.
That we could just make art, because in that world, right, where no one is paying for art because no one has to, because everybody has what they need, the skill of the artist is really going to determine how much value that art has, right? My kid can paint that thing that happened with modern art back when it was being funded by the CIA, but still, there is outsider art that I really like and value, right? But in the same way, if price weren't part of it, you could look at something that's worth $1 million right now and go, I don't really like this, but the fact that it's $1 million artificially inflates how much meaning and value it has.
For some people.
My opinion is that if we lived in a world where art was not charged for, where everything was free, and anyone could hand out CDs for free of their music, Rick's music would be valued higher than ours, even though there's no price associated with it. And again, I'm including you with this, Ben. I think that you're with me on it. I enjoy all of your contributions to everything that I do. I like myself and what I do, but I just know that Rick is much more talented.
No, there was I'm sure you remember this. There was a time when somebody that we knew was like the music booker at some tavern in Ballard and was like, "Do you guys want to do like have a set?"
And we were like, "No,
God, no. This is a good way for us to get kicked out of Ballard."
Exactly. Yeah. I remember my friend Jamie and I got hired to play music at a coffee shop, and he was playing keyboards, I think, maybe guitar. I was running a police scanner through a vocoder that was hooked up through a whole bunch of MIDI stuff, and it was great and it was interesting. But this guy, who does what have we become? Just look at what we have done. All that you destroy, all that we destroy, you must build again.
I don't know.
No.
Well, while you're trying to figure that out,
things have changed. Is it Scorpions?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, anyway, this guy came up and he sang this song a cappella. It was really, really great. And I looked at Jamie and I looked at the guy who did the venue booking, and I was like, do we even continue? I mean, that was great. Do you still want us to do what we're doing? And he was like, hey, if you can, if you want. So we did. But, it was, I was really into Negative Land at the time. So, but anyway, what I'm saying is I like Rick.
Yeah. Okay, good. We have, so actually we have two people in the chat right now. Steven and Drunk are both with us.
Oh, wow. Okay. Hey, Steven and Drunk.
Drunk wants to tell you that the next time you go to Schnucks, try their Schnucks brand St. Louis style thin crust and tell them it ain't better than Imo's.
Oh, I'll tell you it's better than Imo's right now.
Imo's, not a St. Louis person.
I was gonna just glaze over that, but yeah, okay. And I'll tell you what, I'll ask Betty and Jennifer to try it as well, because I bet you it is better.
You know why?
I don't know. You know why I keep this. Yeah.
You know why I keep saying Imo instead of Emo? Because I have a friend, her name is Imogen, and it's Imo for short.
True. Imogen Love? Is that right? So yeah, what I'll say is this. I took Betty and Jennifer to Emo's finally. They did not. I ate the whole pizza myself after they took a few bites. So this is the way I think. There was a part of Northern Exposure. Who's the radio DJ guy? Northern
You're
Exposure.
Gonna have to be. I've never watched Northern Exposure.
There's a character who's a radio DJ. Spent some time in prison, and he talked about how there's food that he had in prison that he still eats it because it's a comfort sort of thing. I think living in the Midwest, if you eat Emos when you're young enough, there's a nostalgia factor that adds a little bit of spice to it. Oh, I did want to say one thing, Ben, and this could be a little bit controversial. I don't think that Rick or Laura listen to the podcast, so I'm going to just mention this. At one point in time, Laura would get into arguments with people online, and there was one argument that she and Jose Almador had that was particularly bad. I didn't like it. I didn't like reading it. I did because I'm messy and I like drama. But one of the things that happened was I think he blocked her, and then after he blocked her, she got onto Rick's account and kept on writing to him.
Oh, geez.
So when I got into an argument with Laura, I blocked her, and then I also blocked Rick. At which point she wrote,
it's a preemptive strike,
to Jennifer's account, saying, "Why did you block Rick? Why did Paul block Rick?" And that's exactly why I blocked Rick, because she tried to do the same thing, but maybe she didn't. This is the epiphany. I had this epiphany just yesterday. Maybe she didn't. Maybe Rick just wanted to write to me. He goes, "Oh, that's weird. Paul blocked me." And she's like, "Oh, he blocked me too." So maybe I'm not as smart as I thought I was. And I just, you know, I now I feel like that, you know, that time is over. I'm no longer on any social media, so I think everything's
Yeah.
fine. Uh, Social media, man, made people argue with each other a lot. Friends who would never argue like that in real life would
It's
argue
actually
online.
those two. I think they would go at it in a public forum, but
Oh, maybe
I,
they would.
yeah, it's interesting to see when I see two people that I know. I don't whether or not I know if they're friends or not. Um, when I
I
see them
didn't
like
block
really,
over the Jose Amador thing. I just want to make sure there was a different sort of beef that we had later on. I just used the thing from Jose as a lesson
yeah.
prior to that. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, you go ahead. You
Oh no no. The only I love my mustache. What I was going to say is I just meant that I wouldn't have argued with her uh not online, if that makes sense. And I wouldn't have blocked her, right, if it wasn't online, that whole thing. Yeah, exactly. So,
I do not like it when friends of mine argue online. I find it very
yeah, hate
uncomfortable,
it.
and I don't read it because for me that's like it never happened.
Yeah, and it really, and here's the thing, it kind of didn't, right? If you don't read it about it online, then it's not. I mean, that's where it exists, right?
Yeah.
Now, I do not agree with the "it's just TikTok, man." Whenever somebody stole people's jokes, and they're
Is
like,
that a thing?
did you just did you just take this joke that this person did and redo it as yourself? And they're like, man, it's just TikTok, don't worry about it. I guess, and I mean that's something. It's just name of application, because that happened on Twitter too. It's just Twitter,
Yeah.
you know, don't worry about it.
There
In a,
was a Bob Barker passed away recently, and I
yes.
saw like three different variations of the joke where Bob Barker died at 99 without going over 100.
Yeah.
And I'm like it's like I'm sure everybody came up with that joke on their own.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
you're gonna get somebody who came up with that joke and then saw somebody else with a similar joke and get super mad.
I think we talked about this. One of the things that made me quit Twitter the first time was that I was obsessed with that.
Yeah.
Whenever I would see someone accuse someone else of stealing their joke, I've said this many times. I would go through the Twitter search history and find someone who wasn't either of those two people who told the joke 3 years earlier and said, "So did both of you guys steal from this guy?" Um,
Yeah.
because I'm again messy, love drama. I also used to do the thing that was, hey, great job, everybody, because we talked about this. You and I very obsessed with not doing jokes or things that other people did. If we found out that somebody else had already done something, we'd scrap our idea and do something else as much as possible.
As much as possible. It's hard to like completely redo
Yeah.
that when you're about to go on at spin the bottle and the act
And
before you
here's
is
the thing,
remarkably similar.
it was also you know, before the internet, markets were smaller, right? So you could do something that another group had done and never have heard of them before. It's
Yeah.
harder to do now. But one of the things I would do on Twitter is I would search for a joke that I was about to tell to make sure that nobody else told that joke. And if I
Yeah.
searched for that joke and there were like, you know, 30 people who do it, I would just take a screenshot of it and say, "Great job, everyone!" exclamation point, and then post all the people posting the same joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't do stand up that much. Really, honestly, the one that Troy Lund recorded at Spin the Bottle is the only recording of me doing stand up ever. And I think it might be the only stand up set that I did ever, I want to say.
I don't know if
I
I
did.
know this performance.
Oh, Slap That Ass. You remember Slap That Ass?
Oh, okay. You're talking about Slap That Ass. I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah, of course.
The thing is that when people watch Slap That Ass, they don't see there's no footage of me instructing the crowd about what to do. And so people who watch it just assume that I am a stand-up and that was my character and my
Yeah.
shtick,
Yeah.
uh, which I think is great. But yeah, so when I did Lol Work, the reality TV show, they referenced me being a stand-up several times and had me talk about being a stand-up, and I was like, "Well, I'm not really a stand-up. I'm a performance artist." And they're like, we we
It's all the
don't
same.
need. Yeah, let's not confuse people.
Yeah.
You're a stand-up, and if you think about it, Ben, if you and I did GudeLaurance stuff at stand-up clubs, I think it might go over okay because
Ah!
and here's why, like the other stuff that we used to do, um it wouldn't be stand up like any of the other people are expecting, but it's weird enough that I think it would maybe go okay.
I think it would be. You have to be just weird enough without being, I don't know, like A of all insulting, but B of all, I don't know. I'm not going to claim to be, the arbiter of what a stand-up comedy
Yeah,
audience wants, but I just feel that with what we did, it probably would not go over. It would go over well at first, maybe because it's just unusual and weird,
yeah.
and then if we
Oh,
went
like
on
if
too
we were if
long,
we were booked, yeah. So here's what I think we could probably do. I'm not saying that we need to do this, but we could go through our old GudeLaurance things and say which of these would work at a stand-up club and which ones wouldn't. You know, because they're not as tech heavy
yeah.
as Spin the Bottle was. Um, they'd have to be at least somewhat funny. I know, big swath of things gone there. Um, you know, all the theater stuff. Yeah, it would be tough. It would be tough.
There
But
are a
I
few
think
things.
there's some
There,
things, and I feel as though that if you and I were stand-ups, and it was just me telling a joke to you and then you telling a joke to me, like, "Hey Ben, what's the deal with it?" And you're like, "Yeah,
yeah,
and I also noticed this," and we just
yeah.
split a regular comics act between the two of us. I think it might go okay.
Has that not been done?
No, no, have we not done it? That's the thing. We haven't done it.
Drunk
So
Drunk wants to know if we've ever thought about writing a new age Seinfeld type show together. We did write an
a
episode
new
of a new age type, a new age Seinfeld type. I don't think new
like
age is like part of it.
psychics. No, I think he's yeah, yeah, yeah. We did
A
write something
modern.
called Normal. At one episode of it, it exists. Is the script anywhere
I don't
online?
think the script is online. I actually came across it recently. Heyo, and
Gross.
and
That's a little naked ladies
hey.
callback.
Anyway, it's I came across it and I read it and I'm like, this isn't that bad. Like you, me, and
No, it's not
Zach
bad.
wrote it, and
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
it's
We
yeah.
sort of
Our
bit
friend
off.
Zach Lewis worked on this with
Yeah,
us.
we sort of bit off more than we can chew in terms of like trying to get it produced.
Yeah,
But it's a good script.
it is a good script. And so yeah, basically, and we have sort of a callback to it in the ransom thing. And I didn't realize that we did when we wrote ransom, but the idea of a child growing
Oh
up,
yeah.
yeah, I think I do like the idea of like you and I doing the normal script, but we're in our 60s. I think that would still work.
Yeah, we were still in our mid-20s, playing
When we
bass
wrote
with
that,
children. Yeah.
yeah.
Normal was interesting, not normal. The ransom is interesting because, and
Oh, we
when
talked about this. Yeah, yeah.
when we get
I know what you're gonna
to
say.
when we get to like this week in GudeLaurance history, we can talk about it more. But like the point of it was that we would have Tom's kid like grow up in the film, and we had Tom play the kid. But we took so long to film that video, we could have actually used the child as
Yeah.
the adult version of himself.
We should have. We could have boyhooded it, but
Yeah, we
I
totally
don't
could have
think we.
boyhooded it.
I don't think we thought of it, right? I think we thought of it after we had completed it.
Well, what happened was we filmed Tom as an old Tom's kid,
Yeah.
in the first part of filming. When we did the second part of filming, we'd already shot that, so we didn't need to do it again.
That's right. Okay.
So we would have to have reshot those scenes, and at that point we were like, "No, let's just get this final part done and get on with it."
That is one thing that I do wish we would have done with GudeLaurance. You know how I forget what it's called, the Remembrance of the Stair or whatever. Because we had talked about it at one time when we had first started, but we didn't do it consistently. There was that thing that we're tied up and it looks like we're beat up.
Yeah,
I forget which one. The concept was. Oh, sorry. It was a video, right? That we showed.
yeah.
That we.
It was like the Murder Files Part 2 or something like that.
Yeah, and afterwards we liked the look of it, and we're like, you know what? We should just from now on, we should make ourselves up that looks like we just got the shit beat out of us. Write it down.
Damn it!
Sorry. Every time that we appear on stage, we should always make ourselves up to look like we're beat up, and have that just be our thing, and then
and not even reference it.
Yeah, exactly. We never did it. I think, but it would have been great.
We never did it because we didn't do our own makeup, and I don't know about you, but I can't do that kind of makeup.
We can't do makeup. That's why we didn't do it. Exactly.
It would have required effort on our parts.
I still think it's a great idea.
Steven says in the chat, the GudeLaurance creative process. Step 1, remove any reference to the audience.
Yeah. Will they? This is the thing, is that I do think that there's a lot of stuff that we wrote. There's a woman in a ghost town somewhere in the United States that puts on her one-woman show every night, regardless of if anybody shows up.
Yeah. And
I do think that there are a lot of GudeLaurance pieces that could use that treatment. That we, you and I, don't really need an audience there in order to do it.
And in fact, it's probably better if nobody shows up.
It's better if nobody sees it.
There was a performance artist in town. I want to say this was like 17, 18 years ago. I think it was
on our turf, Ben.
I think it was at the Rendezvous. And the point of the show was they only sold, and this was a solo performer, they only sold 1 ticket per performance. And so you
I remember
only
this. Yeah.
had one audience member seeing the show. I don't know how long the show was. I'm assuming it wasn't that long. It was like this person would run through maybe 15 or 16 shows a night. But yeah, but that was like, that very intentionally like helps you create that bond with the audience and with the performer.
One of the best things I ever saw, and I wish I knew who put it on. Jennifer could tell you. There was a group of theater folks who put on a performance for me, Jennifer, Betty, and like one other person.
Yeah.
In the woods. We were
in the woods.
Yeah. I forget which woods it was. It might have been near Alki. Don't quote me on that. Maybe West Seattle. I don't remember exactly.
Can I quote you on that?
It was in the woods. No. It was in the no. It was in the woods, and they led us to it, and then they did this performance thing. It was wonderful. I'm not going to tell you about it because you weren't there. It wasn't for you, Ben. But
I mean, I don't know how many audiences I've been, not just here, but in other fringe performance spaces in town, where I've been one of like 4 audience members in the house watching a full show.
I mean, the thing that's great about theater, and I mean this for real, and we might get a little bit too deep here, Ben, but theater really is about, it is the closest you can get to reality control, to manipulating reality, right? You have the option of like virtual reality, things like that. But theater already does it. Theater already, and as especially with the autistic side of me and all that, a place where things are scripted is really interesting, and a place where you're going to be in this space and these people are going to do this thing and this is what the location is going to look like. All of that stuff is just kind of amazing. And I have notebooks filled with stuff like, if you had a performance that you did called The Dentist's Office, and it takes place in a, you have all the equipment and you have the building where the dentist is, but everyone except for you is an actor and they're going through, a day for the dentist, and it's theater. It's fake, but you hire a real dentist who knows how to work on teeth, and they are actually fixing someone's cavity while they're doing it. Where does the line blur? Because that is a dental procedure that's happening there, even if you're not doing it until the night of. Stuff like that. It just, I would think about it, and it would kind of weird me out.
It's not exactly. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say. Then when I did reality TV, same sort of thing. Hey, we're gonna meet here, and we're gonna do this at this time. How is that much different from me making a plan to meet my parents and go to dinner with them, instead of me meeting these people and going to dinner with them?
Your dentist office example is sort of similar to a TV show that was just on called Jury Duty, where it was like everybody was an actor except for one dude, and they went through a trial. And for this one guy, he was an inadvertent audience member to this production, but he was actually, a part of it. He could influence it. He wasn't just like a bystander, just like watching everything. He was actually in the middle.
Yeah. Was it called Average Joe? There was something else that was sort of like that. It was a reality show, but only one person. I don't remember. It was like, you have the Truman Show, you have this one, you have that, the same idea, the audience of one person. And I will tell you, Ben, as a person who has been officially diagnosed as being on the spectrum, look, I paid the money for the diagnosis. I got it. That's great.
You value that diagnosis.
Yeah, exactly. That thank you. Thank you for catching it. If I just had someone off the street diagnose me, I wouldn't. The idea that this is all a show put on for my benefit, that everyone is in on except for me, is, that idea, right? Take that idea before virtual reality. That's what I would think. And you've seen A Glitch in the Matrix. I talk about it. How as a kid I thought that this was, that this is all fake. And then eventually you get to the point where, there's this high level of technology that is fake, and this is all a simulation for my benefit. It's the same kind of idea of, at least, and I'm not saying that if you think virtual reality, if you think that this is a simulation, get yourself tested to see if you're on the spectrum. But what I am saying is that concept of, this isn't real, because, and this is why, because everybody seems to know what they're doing except me.
Yeah.
And I even say it in the thing that maybe this is my way of coping with, some mental issues that I have. And it seems like it's probably true. And looking at my forehead whenever we're doing this, I just want to point out, we've talked about this before, but when I was in the reality show, somebody reached out to me on social media and said that I should really think about getting Botox for the wrinkles in my forehead. And it weirded me out, because I'm like, who does that? And Jennifer at the time said, look, man, you're on a reality TV show. And I hate to say it, but people, when they have that parasocial relationship to you, they think that they can tell you that. It's the same thing when I was doing TikTok. People would write in and say that I needed to vacuum my floor.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hey, we'll know. And they're like, well, why did you film your floor if you don't want people to tell you to vacuum? And that's the idea, the basic concept. Um, if you have put yourself in the public eye, these people say, I'm allowed to call you whatever I want to. I'm allowed to say whatever I want to because you decided to do that. And I would challenge any performer to honestly say, yeah, I did sign up for this. People can be as mean to me as they want to be. You know, I agree that that's what this social contract is. I don't think anyone believes it. I think that they feel put upon. And if they don't, I think that they've just been browbeaten by the man, in my opinion. Ben?
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm sorry, what were you saying? No.
Yeah.
No, it's I think that's a reason why you see a lot of these child stars or actors or singers who end up not being functioning adults because they've been told by complete strangers what they've been doing wrong their entire life, and that's got to take a toll on people.
Well,
And
and
I'm
then
the
the other thing yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm the kind of person who like I can't shake off criticism very easily. I always sort of take it to heart. And so if I was, kind of one of the reasons why, going back to this, why I don't care if nobody listens to this except for Drunken Steven, thank you for listening, or any other art that I do. It's like if somebody says, oh, you're doing this wrong, or you look this way and you should look this other way, it would totally get to me.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh, maybe. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the same thing. The same thing with me. Whenever people would say vacuum the floor, I would be like, hey, man, you know
You vacuum your
that.
floor.
Well, but then I would also vacuum it afterwards. I'd be like, oh, I guess I should vacuum this floor then.
I guess they're right.
It is fun. It is funny that I would not notice how dirty the floor is until somebody, a stranger on the internet, pointed it out to me.
Oh, I would notice.
But yeah, the thing that it's interesting you mentioned that. So I think we've talked about this before. Betty got written up in a magazine, or not a magazine, a newspaper in Ireland, back when she was on Twitter as a little kid.
What?
Yeah, she had a Twitter account, and I would write things that she said on the Twitter account.
I remember that. I think I followed it.
And Jennifer was like, okay, this is all right, but we really need to be careful. And through her instruction and direction, we really started cutting down how much we put Betty online. And it turned out to be a good idea, I think, because nowadays when you watch some of the things that the parents do with their children, like there was one where this little kid, their
That's
parents
right, Edward.
shaved a receding hairline into his head and had him dress up in a suit and throw a thing of chili on the ground. And the kid was crying, saying, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And they're like, just do it. And that could have been Betty if her mom hadn't been, a watchdog and that sort of stuff.
I haven't seen a lot of these videos because this isn't the sort of content that I seek out, but I do know of a number of channels, one specifically, and I think they've even been shut down and the kids taken away, where the parents would play pranks on the kids for the lulls, or like views on YouTube. And I saw like one excerpt of a video, and these kids were getting traumatized.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I can't imagine, like, my parents aren't the type of people to do that. I can't, but at the same time, I'm super happy that the internet did not exist during my adolescence.
Yes. And also, I'm glad the internet wasn't as popular as it used to be. Didn't get as popular as it is now. We talked about this before, I think. Bean Dad, Seattle's own. I love the song "The Commander Thinks Aloud." John Roderick. He was very nice to me. When we have mutual friends and all that kind of thing. I was, when I first heard of the thing, I was on Team Bean Dad. I was like, well, this is fine, because my understanding of it was, the way that I understood it, it was, hey, you're gonna open this can with this can opener, and until you do, we're gonna not open the can until you figure it out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like now I'm going to go into the other room. It was them sitting down working it out. According to my wife and my kid, that is not exactly how it went down, and I can't really speak to it. But the one thing I do know is that, and I told you about this before, uh, there was a time at a pool where I wanted Betty to go down the slide. She didn't want to go down the slide, and I was cajoling her. I'm like, come on, you'll
Yeah.
have fun. I promise you'll have fun. And
Yeah.
she like eventually starts crying, saying, I don't want to do it. And of course, at that point, I stopped and I said, okay, we're going to make a rule. You're in charge of your own fun. Even if I think something is going to be fun, you don't have to do it until, unless you want to, you don't have to do it. And if I ever pressure you, all you have to do is say, I'm in charge of my own fun, and then we still use that to this day. Um, there was a woman who was filming our interaction at the pool while she was crying, and I was trying to get her
Really?
in. Yeah. And I still think about that. That if I and the way that I put it is, if I had been any more famous, you know, that might have gone, to someplace. I'm sure that, you remember an interaction that you had with your parents at one point in time where you were upset about a decision that they made, and you were, arguing with them about it.
Yeah.
At the time that we were kids, that would not have been recorded and broadcast to a whole bunch of people.
Right.
But
No,
now anything can be.
because
But
everybody who's a parent or not a parent has their own ideas of what parenting is,
yeah,
and you're
these
obviously doing it
days,
wrong.
though, people tell on themselves. That's the thing. That was the other
Yeah.
thing, is that he posted it. And again, this is one of those things. I do not think that necessarily him deciding to post it means that anyone can say anything they want to him. But there are people that are of that opinion. Well, hey man, you were the one who posted this,
Yeah.
so don't get mad at me telling you what to do. And again, just for the record, I do not endorse not feeding your child if they can't open a can. If that is what happened, and this is what I've been told, I've not
I
decided.
mean,
But
I've
like I
not
said, sorry, go ahead.
I've not seen the Bean Dad video. I know the controversy. The way you describe it doesn't make it sound terrible at all, but I mean,
Well, I mean, that's my understanding was that there wasn't a video. I didn't know that there was a video of it. I thought that I just heard the description of it. And again,
yeah.
not the description that he had of it, the description that somebody else wrote about it. So anyway, the fact that here's the point. I know that in my when I was bringing Betty up and when I was doing things, there were times when where I was like, okay, well, this is going to be a teaching moment. I'm going to do, we're going to do this. Well, I'll give you an example. Math. I am not allowed. I am not allowed by Jennifer and the psychologists who study Betty. I'm not allowed to work with her on math problems because she and I just feed back upon each other, and it gets bad, which is crazy but true. And I feel as though if someone were to record or would have recorded those math interactions, um, it I would not be seen as a good guy. I would be seen as, why doesn't he just let her do it the way that she wants to? Why is he so obsessed? The reason is because she and I have the same problem,
Yeah.
and I'm the adult, so I should be the one to not engage in that. But I have issues. So, and this is the thing, is that someone might say, well, hey, you should learn to not do this. But because I can't learn to not do this, not talking about it, not dealing with it, and having it be, mom deals with the math side of things, is the way to do it. And it seems to work out so far.
Well, that's
But
good.
we'll see. Yeah. Labor Day. It's a holiday. Thank
Is
you,
it?
the Black Eyed Peas. Yeah, the Monday the 4th. No work,
I'll be working.
which is pretty exciting. Oh, really?
That's the thing about being freelance is you don't get
Yeah.
paid time off or holiday pay.
Or insurance
Yay! Or insurance. Well, I
through
mean,
your employer. I mean,
exactly.
you're your employer,
I
so
have insurance, but I pay a lot for it, and I get very
yeah.
little. It's a great system.
Uh, yeah. Uh, I don't want to. I don't want to say too much, but you'll note, of course, that there are people in the world at this time who want people to go back into offices.
Yeah.
And Jennifer pointed out a very good point, and that's that the people that run the businesses, right, may understand that they don't have to pay a lot for their employees and all that to be in there, but they also most likely have real estate holdings of their own. And so it's in their best interest that the real estate markets, happen. Also, the automotive industry, if we don't have to, so like Jennifer and I only have one car now. We had two. We got rid of one of the cars because I work from home, right? And so,
Yeah.
you know, the car companies like it when people have to commute, obviously. So,
And the repair
making people go to
companies.
yeah,
I don't know. It's
all of those
yeah.
things.
I don't like. There's like I live in Seattle. Amazon has famously called its worker bees back to
Yes.
the hive, and I think was it Amazon? I think it was. I think it was like the CEO of Amazon who basically said, I think in no uncertain terms, if you don't come back to the office, we will replace you.
Yeah. It is interesting, of course, because back when the customer service center was in Seattle and they moved it to Grand Forks, North Dakota, or Huntington, West Virginia, they said you can work for us if you move to those locations.
Right.
So
Because otherwise, we
interesting.
won't be able to tell if you're working or not because we won't have a supervisor leaning over your shoulder.
Yeah, it is interesting about productivity and all that if you are in a physical location. Here's the thing. I feel as though my advancement in my job is directly correlated to the fact that I was working from home during the pandemic,
Yeah.
because a lot of the things that my little mental issues uh, keep me from uh, that a lot of my little mental issues that keep me from getting promotions and things like that were not on display because I was working from home.
Yeah. And
So
I
I was
mean,
turning my work in.
and how many studies have there been that determine that productivity goes up when you have a remote workforce and they only have to work, say, 30 hours a week, right?
Yep.
Your productivity goes up because all the work is more concentrated into the day and they're not spending, 2 to 3 hours a day trying to look busy, which is when I worked in the office, something I did a lot.
Something that I was told, the suggestion that was made was that it's a boomer problem. That
What isn't?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's like, and all I have to say is yes. It is funny. Um, Millennials and Gen Z kids are also put on by boomers. Put upon. They've done it now for 3 generations. Um, but as Jennifer has pointed out, and it's absolutely true, Karens, anytime that you see one, that's actually usually a Gen X person.
Yeah,
We've
well,
aged into,
it's our age group, yeah.
yeah. So that's something. Um, that is too bad.
It is
Uh,
too bad because all the people whose name is Karen I know are really great people.
yep. That was the other thing, is that Jennifer said that if you're watching a video and there's a Karen, again,
Yeah.
doing things like that, um, she she said a lot of them are functional alcoholics, and that's part of the thing of like, why are they like this? That's
Yeah.
part of what's happening.
Clearly, they've been
So
drinking since lunch.
exactly, or haven't been drinking since lunch and should
Well,
maintain.
that's another way to look at it, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. And don't get help, people, if you need help. Oh, and finally, speaking about addiction and things of that nature, uh, Feel Good, starring Mae Martin, Mae Martin. Yep. Not the theme song for the movie, but it's by comedian and Canadian Mae Martin, who I'm currently watching on the season of
Comedian.
Taskmaster. That is a comedian. That's great, man. Now I wish I lived there. Uh, yeah, it's great. Well written, in my opinion. I keep on saying in my opinion, just because I don't want anyone to get mad at me for thinking differently than they do. But it's
I believe
great.
that's what emo stands for.
And it's on Netflix. So yeah, just throwing that out there. It is, you can't look away. Again, one of the things where it's someone who is not afraid to make themselves look. I'm trying to phrase this right. Make themselves look bad, as far as, showing the flaws that they have and things like that, as part of their story. Issues that that show up when they interact with other people. They're not always right in the situations that they're in. It's good stuff. Anyway,
one final note though. So Steven and Drunk have been pretty vocal in the chat. I've not gotten to everything. I'm sorry, y'all, to not. I haven't even been able to read everything. But the Drunk just submitted something.
Let's
that
go
I want
a little over to address these things.
Well, no, I'm just gonna say this one last thing. Okay. Drunk says, "My mom's name is Karen. She never drank a day in her life. She's just a naturally mean person."
Oh, well. And don't we all know someone like that?
And with that...
yes. Ben,
Paul,
I'm going to ask you to, between now and the next time we talk, it's going to be a week from now, keep it wrong.
Well, I hope to try to keep it wrong, and I impress upon you to do the same thing. So keep it wrong, and I'll talk to you next week.